We get to do this every day. You go to work, you go to a coffee shop, you're going to sit down to somebody who says, pick inside, outside of this vessel, your choice. Which one do you want? Every day through the email, you get notifications of 2 or 3 seminars that week across the university in different areas. I've been in universities for over 40 years now, and my life has been fabulous for just those reasons. So I think this participation in something like the Big Ideas Festival is a form of life and a habit of the mind that we get accustomed to, and we're very fortunate to do that. However, having said that, the boring stuff is over. We're going to accounting now. Okay, make it work. So much for free radicals and Dr. Seuss and vessels and quantum computers and stuff. We're going to talk about accounting. I want you to engage in a kind of thought experiment with me. You only have to do it for about 9 more minutes, so it'll be okay. Trust me. I want you to think about how big ideas are sometimes the most ancient ideas that we have. And sometimes we forget the integrity of those ancient ideas, and we focus on novelty and newness, and often lose track of those fundamental ideas that make us human. I want to suggest that economic accountability is flirting with that process right now, and try to explain to you why. I was fortunate enough to be an English major, studied English and philosophy for 2 degrees. And then I went into accounting, and people said, how'd you get from there to accounting? I said, it's easy, money. I have children, they need to eat, they do all that stuff. So, but the background in English and philosophy has given me a view of accounting that's a little different than the norm, and one I think is very valuable. Greek tragedy is very misunderstood. Tragedy is about too many goods in front of you. You have one life. You have all this good that you can enact, but you can't do it all. You have to choose among competing goods. We can't have the best healthcare system we want and the best schools that we want and the happiest life that we want. We can't be with our children all the time. We have to go to work. We have to do all these kinds of things. So the nature of tragedy, and Antigone, by the way, is the book to read to get this. The nature of tragedy is the tragedy of the good, not the good and the evil or the good and the bad, but the choice among competing goods. Notice, that aligns very well with the concept of economics. Economics is the concept of allocating scarce resources to enact the good life for people. So this is my perspective on accounting. That's what we do in accounting. We hold people economically accountable for the choices they make about how to allocate resources in a way that enhances the good life for us. Okay? Fair enough? And I don't want you to think of accounting just in terms of the narrowness of professional accounting. We live in a world of the increasing economic accountability of all of us. Science, for example. Science is deeply wedded now to a kind of commercial reason that's focused on budgets and resources. So concepts like what is the payoff of this science start to matter a great deal, which is in the way of things like basic research in some areas like the study of free radicals. That's not a bad thing, that's just a tragic thing. We have limited resources, we have to make those choices. So I want you to understand accounting is much broader than commercial accounting, what we typically think of as what accounting firms do. Fair enough? You only got 6 minutes to live with it now, so it's okay. You'll be all right. What is the relation between the pursuit of the good life, and accounting for scarce resources? And that is the fundamental accountability question we ought to ask of all of our institutions and all of our fellow human beings. How does this allocation of scarce resources contribute to the good life? Can you give me an economic account of what you just did? One of the most fundamental conditions that makes us human is we have the capacity to transform our world, not to take it as a given. And engaging in those transformations, we influence other people. We build houses a certain way. We build roads a certain way. We build schools a certain way. And we are accountable for those resource allocation decisions. Accountable in terms of what? Some concept of the good life. Okay? So, this little poster here is very real and very, very genuine, very authentic to our time. We have a problem. We have a problem of greed. Enron's mission statement said, we want to be the largest company in the world. What the hell does that mean? For what reason? Why do you want the most stuff for yourself? What's the deal here? And as easy as it is for us to make Enron the bad guy here, I would suggest that's precisely what we do in our economic accounting. We're focused on the bottom line without paying too much attention to why we got there, how we got there. We want the size of earnings per share. We want the growth in an economy. Well, I'm sorry, not all economic growth is a good thing. I don't have to convince you of that. Some of it poisons our air. Some of it creates joblessness rather than jobs. Financial capitalism in the U.S. with the financial crisis would be a good example of that. I better check my time. I'm long-winded. What have I got? 4? Wow. Professor is somebody who can talk for precisely 50 minutes about anything. 10 minutes is hard. That's one class session, by the way. All right. This is a quote normally attributed to Einstein. It's not Einstein's quote. He wrote it on his blackboard, okay? And there are pictures of that, so they attribute it to Einstein. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. And this is the problem we face. I don't speak of my wonderful partner, Sandra, in terms of computations. I don't love you 32.5. I don't value a child's education in terms of computing a test score that determines how much money that school gets. You just relegated the poor children to a deeper ghetto than they were in before in that process. So finding the right prudent response to where our values and our resources make sense to us together is when accounting is functioning well. My sense is we're living in a world where we focus so much on the economization of our lives that we're losing track of that ancient sense of tragedy, of the ethics we face. I can't see that, the light's in my face. Another problem, depoliticizing politics. I do this myself. I was an administrator in a university for about 6 years. And when the conversation got to be something I didn't like very much, I started talking about the numbers. So, it's a way of diffusing democracy. It's a way of diffusing political discourse where we come and put our heads together about the kind of world we want to live in. And the more democratic your culture is, the bigger that problem is because it's pluralistic and lots of people have ideas about the good life, their own autonomy, and their own freedom. So we have this increasing tendency in politics, whenever issues get sensitive, to start talking about budgets and resource problems and things like that. And we're all guilty of it. Costs and benefits, this is great. I love this one. Costs don't fall out of the sky. Costs are grounded in fiction writing. The Ford Pinto case comes to mind. Some of us are old enough to remember that. Ford wanted a car that weighed less than 2,000 pounds. It cost less than $2,000. But there was a problem. If you got rear-ended, it would blow up. Okay. So Ford calculated the cost of repairs. It was $11 a car. Compared it to what the U.S. government told us our lives were worth. Human life was worth $2,000 at the time. I'd like to ask the guy who came up with that number if I could buy his life for $2,001. It may make it work. The problem is that $11 cost of repairing those Pintos included the allocation of a whole bunch of costs. Like if we were costing this session tonight, we would go back to the construction cost of this building, and we would pull down some of that cost, call it depreciation, and add it to the cost of repairing it. We're talking about people dying here. So the old saying, accountants are people who know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. We don't know much about the cost either. Okay, that's a very arbitrary process. Benefits, we borrow commercial reason, but the private sector does not face the benefit problem we face. They have a clear index of value of benefits. It's called money you get from your customers, revenue. We build indicators that suggest otherwise, and my time's up, I can't do this. I'm 40 minutes short in this lecture. I can't make it work. This is my last slide. It captures the problem. I love this. It's great. This is a comment from a University of Chicago economist of some renown. He was working with Senator Mark Hatfield on a government-funded project. And his quote is, we kept telling Hatfield that jobs are a cost, not a benefit. Excuse me. I thought economics was about letting people build houses, put food on the table, and jobs are a cost. So I would leave you with that to chew on tonight when you can't sleep. It captures the dilemma that we're in. Thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming to your country. It was a great place to be.